We're here to the most sacred and the oldest temple dedicated to the Lord Shiva called Pashupatinath. You all can see this wonderful stuff here is known as Sivalingams. So these are supposed to be the oldest form and the images of the Lord Shiva in Hinduism, and they all date back to over 20 million years ago. And this is actually the form of the Shiva with the 5 faces facing to the 5 different directions. There's a wonderful display of the 5 common special offerings in Hinduism. These are taken as a special offerings in Hinduism, and they all do represent the 5 different senses. So we arrive here inside the complex of Pashupatinath Temple. There are about 300 temples within the vicinity of this very holy shrine. Shiva is the god who's known as a god of supreme consciousness, and the word itself, Pashupatinath, which is meaning like the god of the beast. There's a saying in Hinduism, we are supposed to be bound with the 8 different sort of bondages. So he is the one and only God who can immune us from the 8 different bondages, and we call it as a Ashtapas. When you see the gentlemen like this sitting right down here, they are actually known as the holy men, or we call them as a Sadhus. So they actually are completely detached from their family, their material way of living, and they just rely on a very basic kind of, let's say, fruits and the foods here. That's how they're making their livings out of all that. Sadhus are actually the companions and also the followers of the Lord Shiva. So they keep traveling from one place to another, just like a nomads. The Sadhus are actually a highly spiritual people. You know, the Shiva, the god, he used to have a dreadlock and paint the body and the faces with the ashes, and they try to put on the different kinds of the tikas. And there are many different kinds of sadhus. Even you can see the yoginis, the women. So they have a different section on the other side. Here we are right in front of the most sacred temple. This is the entrance that goes to the main temple. And the temple itself is believed to be over 2,000 years old, as the oldest and the most beautiful temple. Just right behind me is a wonderful image of the Shiva on a standing pose. And there's an awesome background with the Mount Kailas, which is believed to be the dwelling place of the god Shiva, where he used to reside over. And just underneath the Himalayas, there are like 2 holy rivers, namely Ganga and Jamuna. The Ganga is the Ganges, and Jamuna is the river Yamuna, where they have one of the 7 wonders, Taj Mahal, is situated. And underneath that, we can see the 2 beautiful images of the sons of the Shiva. One is on the left, God Ganesha, the elephant-faced god, and the one on the right is the Kartikeya. We call him Kumara. And they are treated as gods of success to begin any kind of rituals in Hindu celebrations. And the temple is like a 2-storied, which is with a golden roof, silver triplicate gateways on the 4 sides, and right in the sanctum is a huge piece of the phallus, which we have seen earlier is known as a Sivalingam. So this is the one and only temple in Nepal Only the Hindus from Nepal and India, including the local Buddhists, may enter. And inside the temple, it is looking like a sort of living museum with the finest display of the artifacts. In fact, this is considered as the richest temple with a lot of precious assets ever. We're now on the other side of the Pashupatinath Temple, but this part of the temple is well known for the cremation practice. Just behind me, there are about 12 major crematoriums here. You might have heard about the caste system in Hinduism. There were like four major hierarchical caste groups, namely Brahmins, the first class, Kshatriyas, the second class, Vaishyas, the group of tradesmen, the third class, and eventually the Sudras, the untouchables, and the lower classes. When a person dies, we start bringing the body down here, which is going to be wrapped up with a very thinner kind of cotton cloth. And people start worshipping over the body, and that is supposed to be carried over a small bamboo ladder, and the body will be nicely tied up. And after that, they just keep following for about a 15 to 20 minutes rituals. You can see the fire right down there, which is like being piled up with a bunch of firewoods, making different layers. All they are going to do is they just lift up the body, and that is supposed to be done by the male members in the family. And with that, they just make 3 rounds and place the body right on the top of the funeral pyre. And with that, a priest was going to help them out for the firing process. So for that, all procedures, so they're going to use the cow butter and the rice hay, which would be soaked into the water, and after that they'll just cover up the body from the top. And with that they start, littering the fire from underneath, and that'll take about 2.5 hours to 3 hours maximum to finish the whole body. But there has been saying a couple bunch of these veins in the brain and artery stuff, they are not going to be burnt off so far. And there's a little piece of the bone in between the eyes, like the forehead right here, which is taken as a astu, or the relics. And the Hindus would like to cremate that down in the river Bagmati. And talking about the cremation philosophy in Nepal, it has been saying, being as a Hindus, so we have been coming out of the 5 major elements: the sky, earth, air, fire, and water. There are hundreds of these tiny temples which are beautifully set up in the premises of the Pashupatinath Temple, but they're all taken as replicas of the main temple. Some are dedicated to the different forms of Hindu deities, and some are having the phallus like the Sivalingams. In fact, this is where you would be able to see the holy men residing over. Well, we can view over the entire crematoriums right down there adjacent to the holy river Bagmati, with the main temple, which is so awesome, full of those wonderful small temples, shrines, artifacts. So that is the magnificent view of the main complex of the temple of Pashupatinath.